Hello everybody, Suffolk Andy here. Second blog of the day, if I, put this one on. Not a lot to talk about, but I thought I'd talk about tyres. Tyres on motorbikes. Now I can actually say I'm not an expert on tyres on motorbikes, not in the slightest. As long as I've got tread on them, I'm happy. But, and here's a big but coming up here, I actually found out the difference between tyres several years ago now, and it made me more, after many years of biking, it made me more cautious about what sort of tyres I put on my bike. And the story begins with this bike. When I bought this bike, I had a ZZR before this, and unfortunately I had a tank slapper, an accident. The only one I've really ever had in my life. This blinking tank slapper came down to a corner, not speeding that much, and thought, I'll just go around this corner. Handlebars started to wobble. Nothing I could do whatsoever. Oh, come on. And went straight across the road, over the handlebars, and through a freaking hedge, because as you know, you can see by the blogs, there's hedges everywhere in bloody Suffolk. And the bike landed up in a ditch, absolutely destroyed. And I'd only had that bike probably a month, so I was not sort of happy. Anyway, cut a long story short, oh for God's sake, cut a long story short, I still decided to get myself another ZZR. So I see this one up for sale in the Midlands, about 180 miles away from Ipswich. So I then decided I'd have it. So I phoned the guy up, and he wanted a little bit more than what I wanted, I could afford. I just got the money back from the insurance from the other one, and I said to him, look, if the bike is what you say it is, I'm quite prepared to come up from Ipswich to where you are, nearly 200 miles I think it was, and I've got this amount of money. It's a little bit short than what you want for this bike. I said, but if it's everything you say, you got a deal. And he hummed and hawed and said, yeah, okay mate. I said, so you sure? Because 200 miles is a long way to go. Anyway, up we went, see the bike, and I said to him, it's got brand new tyres on it. He said, yeah, I just put them on. He said, so I could sell it, I said, okay. And they were Avon tyres. Now, I've never heard of Avon motorbike tyres. I might be showing my ignorance here, but I've never heard of them, Avon tyres. And these tyres were pristine. They were lovely, brand new. So anyway, took the bike back to, rid it back down to Ipswich, and I thought, I don't like this bike that much. It's a bit sort of wayward, a bit all over the place. So I said to Mrs. P, I don't know if I bought myself a freaking shit bike here. The handling of it is nasty. About a month later, we all went off to Zedba in Yorkshire for a week's holiday with some of my mates on bikes. And we went up to Zedba. And when we got there, the Yorkshire Moor's a beautiful place, and all the twisty roads, ups and downs and whatever. And we're going around, and I kept saying to Mrs. P, I don't trust this bike. I said, I really do not trust it. And going back just before we went, my mate said to me, he said, God, Andy, because we picked him up in the car park on the way up there. Sort of, he was waiting for us. And he said, Andy, bloody tyres on your bike. He said, they're bloody fantastic. Look, they're brand new. I said, yeah. Anyway, going back to what I was saying, is that I said to Mrs. P, I said, I don't like this bike. She said, don't be so silly, that's lovely. I said, you're not riding it. I said, it's a pig. I said, I'm going round corners and I don't trust it. I said, it's wayward. I said, the front just feels like it wants to come away from me. And I said, the back seems like it wants to slip everywhere. And she said, well, don't to me. I said, well, you're not riding it. I said, I'm actually riding this bike like, super cautious. She said, oh. So I had a word with a couple of my mates, and they said, well, they shouldn't be And they said, you got new tyres on there and everything. I said, yeah, I know. I said, that's horrible. I said, in fact, I'd go as far as to say, this bike is friggin' dangerous. So anyway, we came back, and we drove all the way back from Zebra. And just before we let my mate go off, because he lived at Bury St Edmunds and we lived at Ipswich, so we all stopped to have a coffee before we sort of went our two ways. And he said, Andy, have you seen them tyres on your bike? And I said, no. I said, I checked them this morning before we came down. I said, I noticed there was quite a bit of wear on them. I said, they sort of went half what they were before we went. He said, where? You want to have a look? He said, I know we've just done nearly 300 miles of motorway driving. He said, but you have a look at them. When I had a look, they were friggin' bald. Absolutely friggin' bald. There was hardly any tread in them, and they looked in a hell of a state. So I thought, we've got to change these, you can't get done with these. So next week when I booked it into the local garage or motorbike place, there was 2 new tyres fitted. So I told him all about this, and he went, I haven't done very well, have I? And I don't think they'd done more than 2,000 miles, these Avon tyres, and they were supposed to be touring tyres as well. So I said to the guy, I said, well, what do you recommend? And he said, well, we've got these new Pirelli Angels. And I said, oh yeah, I'll have a look at them. He said, yeah. He said, when you put them on, he said, the tread looks like an angel. He said, when you scrub the tyres in, it will look like a devil. Well, that's neat. He said, we're having quite a few reviews about these. They seem to be lasting, really good tyre. So he fitted them, and that night I went out with my mate, and I was still scrubbing them in. So I sort of never got the benefit of it, and after I scrubbed them in, this bike was absolutely transformed. It was like I was riding a brand new bike. I couldn't believe how good these tyres were, these Angels. And so it just goes to show sort this out. She's going on there. Yeah, it just goes to show the difference between 2 brands of tyres. The Avons, man, were friggin' dangerous. The Angels transformed the bloody motorbike. And I've never looked at anything else either, and I'm still using them. And I'll tell you what, they've been on here now, I don't know, 4 years, and they've still got loads of tread on them, and they hold the road lovely. I know what the bike's going to do. I can sling around corners if I really want to give it some, and she's sure-footed. So that's my little thing about tyres. Let's get past him, shall we? I did notice the other day though, I was looking at the my bike the other day with my son. Packless Dribs, that's his name, as his blogging name. He put a little blog on this morning, one of the historic towns in Suffolk. He went through near where he works on a little blog. I was quite impressed. I think it was more of a safety, well, a little blog where you can have a look around the historic sort of town and a little bit about safety on the roads. Yeah, he was around mine the other day, and we looked at the tyre. He said, Dad, your tyre's squared off. And I said, well, yeah, it might be a bit, but you've got to remember, I do a lot of motorway riding. I go to France twice a year, and I want to get to A to B. And I said, yeah. I said, but look at the tread on them. I said, there's loads of tread still on them. Give this little old biker a nod. Good old boy. And I said, yeah, there's still loads of tread. I said, they are slightly squared. I can live with that. I said, but I can assure you, even when I go around a really rear tyre, you'll see that in a minute. Let's give that a little bit of a... This bike is very, very sure-footed, even with a slightly, you know, squared tyre. So I'm still happy. And I still think I'm looking at maybe 1 or 2, maybe even 3,000 miles on these blinking tyres. As you can see, she goes lovely. You just know where she's going to go. And you can accelerate out. There you go. I won't go much more because I'll be going well over the limit. So yeah, they grip. So all I'm going to say to people is Angels, one of my favourite tyres. Keep away from Avons. My God, I don't know where they got them from, but they were just horrendous. So, little old learner, you got to give him a nod, keep him encouraged. Well, I'm going to shut up now and make my way back into Ipswich. I don't know if I'm going to keep this going just as a ride, or say that's enough for me. Something handy.